Hi, my name is Anna Gafford, and today I'm going to be giving my persuasive speech on how to stop the rapid decline in the honeybee population. Honeybees are responsible for pollinating around 30% of U.S. crops. That makes them important to not only the agricultural industry, but to you as well. Without honeybees, many of our important staple crops wouldn't be able to grow properly, meaning worldwide panic and starvation. Honeybees are responsible for pollinating a third of the food in your diet. Without them, a lot of the fruits and vegetables that you eat wouldn't be readily available. I've spent the past 2 years studying why the honeybee population is declining and how I can help fix it. Today, I'm going to be telling you about the different reasons why the honeybee population is declining, from insecticides and herbicides to genetic bottlenecking, varroa mites and diseases, and migratory beekeeping. After that, I'm going to tell you about how we can change this enormous decline. First, we have the problems. A large portion of the mass decline we see within our honeybee is thanks to insecticides and herbicides. Many farmers who grow crops put insecticides and herbicides on their crops to help keep away weeds and beetles from eating the crop, and it kills them. But it doesn't only just kill them, it kills honeybees as well. A new study says that even Roundup, a simple backyard garden herbicide, is killing honeybees. SierraClub.org says that an active ingredient in Roundup is targeting enzymes first thought to only affect only plants, but some bacteria in the enzymes, including that certain agent, is hurting the intestines of the bees as well. When pollinators come into contact with this active ingredient, the chemical reduces the gut bacteria, leaving bees vulnerable to pathogens and even premature death. Another reason for the decline in the bee population is genetic bottlenecking. NCBI states that genetic bottlenecking is referred to as an extreme lack of genetic diversity, which can potentially lead to genetic drift. This is happening because many beekeepers and commercial beekeeping operations aren't using enough queens in their breeding populations. This is one of the main reasons for the lack of genetic diversity we see within our honeybees. Diseases in the varroa mite is also a large contributor to the decline as well. The varroa mite, it's an external parasitic mite that attacks the honeybee. What it does is it attaches to the bee's body and sucks on the bee's vital fluid and blood, like how a tick would for a human or an animal. One of the biggest diseases that affects the honeybee is Israeli acute paralysis virus. Israeli acute paralysis virus caused the bee to develop shivering wings and then eventually become paralyzed and die just outside of their hives. A recent study by PLOS shows that the varroa mite can also serve as a vector for Israeli acute paralysis virus, meaning that it can transfer Israeli acute paralysis virus to the bee as well. Finally, one of the biggest culprits for the decline in the honeybee population is the migratory beekeeper. Many stationary beekeepers fully blame migratory beekeepers for colony collapse disorder. Around 50 to 90% of commercial beekeeping colonies have suffered from colony collapse disorder. That's a pretty big amount. This die-off is sparking a concern, as honeybees are essential in pollinating over 90 fruits and vegetables worldwide. Scientific America states that if migratory honeybee keepers contributes to colony collapse disorder and honeybee deaths in general, it's likely one of the many different causes of these parasites that weakens the bee's immune system, the varroa mite that sucks out the bee's vital fluids, drought, and even lack of genetic diversity could also be responsible. A report by North Carolina State University, researchers discovered that migratory beekeepers increase oxidative stress. Oxidative stress occurs when migratory beekeepers move their bees to where they're trying to be pollinated. But what happens is the bee doesn't get enough oxygen and they also can't defecate, causing their deaths. We have found that migratory beekeepers actually have their bees lose 1 day of their lives compared to stationary beekeepers. While 1 day may not seem like a lot, 1 day represents 5% of the bee's lifespan and up to 20% of their foraging lifespan. Now that I have told you about the problems facing the honeybee population, I'm going to tell you how we can change that. A way to help stop the deaths of the honeybee population is to communicate between farmers and honeybee keepers. Having the communication between the farmers and the honeybee keepers when using pesticides should be within an 8-mile radius, as the bees will travel up to 8 miles to search for food. So if that bee goes even 5 miles away to that farmer's crop who just did pesticides, they will bring it back to their hive, ultimately killing their hive. Another thing that you can do is spray your pesticides and herbicides at night when bees aren't active. What you should do is you should read the back label of every pesticide or herbicide that you have. It always has it. Roundup is active for 24 hours. Another thing that we can do to help with genetic bottlenecking is use more queens in our breeding populations. We should also add a couple different species into it, such as European bees, German bees, and even Africanized bees, as they will help with the genetic diversity. Ways to help with diseases and mites is what you can do with the varroa mite is you can spread powdered sugar over the bees, and what it will do is it will attach to the varroa mite and actually cause the varroa mite to fall off of the bee onto the bottom of the hive. And what you can do is you can put a trap at the bottom so that they can't come back and get the bee. Another thing you can do for diseases is you can add the Russian pea into the gene pool, which is thought to help to be resistant to the mite. And then there's an Africanized bee that is resistant to just about anything. One thing that you have to be careful about with Africanized bee, though, is they are highly aggressive. One thing that is very important is to help create and enforce more cohesive laws. One of the biggest problems with migratory beekeepers is that state by state and even county by county, laws and regulations are different for how beekeepers have to handle and transport their bees. So certain cohesive laws could help stop the spread of these diseases and parasites over state lines and even over county lines. One of the things that we can do to help stop that is approach lawmakers with this issue to help educate them so that they can share the issue with their fellow colleagues. One of the biggest things that we can do, though, everyone can do, is to educate the public, like how I am with this speech. Because many people don't know that the honeybee population is declining. This will help them be educated on it, and then they can further research it and tell other people so it spreads the word. Today, I talked to you about the various different reasons for the lack in the honeybee population, from insecticides and herbicides to genetic bottlenecking, varroa mites and diseases, and migratory beekeeping. After telling you about the problems, I told you about the solutions, from communication between farmers and beekeepers to adding in different gene pools to strengthen the genetic diversity, doing the powdered sugar trap, and creating more cohesive laws, along with educating the public. Because communication and spreading the word is key. That is how we're going to spread the word, and that is how we're going to help the honeybee population. Because without honeybees, many farmers wouldn't be able to produce a sufficient food supply for our world. And we need to take actions and be the change. Thank you.